This is the weekly roundup on EAC News Channel. A very good evening to you. I'm Darshana Gochan. And now for a look at how the weather will be playing out over the next few days.
The 2022 Asean Tourism Forum hosted by Cambodia in Siem Reap was held and closed successfully, as all participating delegates, sellers, buyers, and members of national and international media were reported to have tested negative for COVID-19 upon their departure. EAC News reporter Sraipor Kong has more details.
The Minister of Tourism, Hun Sen, has confirmed that as of January 22nd, all delegates who attended the Asean Tourism Forum in Siem Reap have tested negative for COVID-19 after taking PCR tests to return to their respective countries. He added that the last group of foreigners left Cambodia after they testing negative for COVID-19 on January 23rd, and only 2 international journalists, one from the United States and one from Ireland, have stayed in Phnom Penh to continue the visit. He continued that some international delegates have sent messages of appreciation for the Asean Tourism Forum and thanked Cambodia for its hospitality and warm welcome. He also noted the enthusiasm some foreigners participating in the Asean Tourism Forum had for tourists in Cambodia, describing how a group of them also went to visit the island around Siem Reap, the capital city Phnom Penh, and some even made their way to visit Angkor Wat in Siem Reap. Minister Hun Sen stated that the Ministry of Tourism will disseminate this good information to the region and the world to promote safe tourist destinations in the country, while the Royal Government of Cambodia has recently announced the opening of the Asean Tourism at the Asean Tourism Forum 2022. The 40th Asean Tourism Forum was held from 16 to 22nd January 2022 in Siem Reap. All ASEAN member countries and the broader international community took part in the forum, including the ASEAN Secretary General, the ASEAN Tourism Minister, the World Tourism Organization, and the embassy of many other countries. Minister Hun Sen has said that the international community has commended the Royal Government of Cambodia for its true management and control safety measures to protect the well-being of participating members from COVID-19 during their visit, making the Asean Tourism Forum a great success. The Ministry of Tourism has also stressed that Asean Tourism Forum was an important event in the official reopening of tourism destinations in the ASEAN region, as well as for promoting Cambodia as a safe tourism destination after tourism in Southeast Asia have been severely disrupted by the COVID-19 pandemic for more than 2 years. Sraipor Kong, EAC News.
The Ministry of Health of Cambodia has decided to lift mandatory requirements for Omicron patients to be treated at the hospital and allow patients to be treated at home or at any location of their choosing. This decision was made after Prime Minister Hun Sen issued a special message on the night of Friday, 21st January, where he recommended modifying the treatment conditions of Omicron patients after assessing that the variant poses less risk than previously thought. In a press release issued by the Ministry of Health hours after Prime Minister Hun Sen released his special message, the Ministry of Health announced the decision to allow all COVID-19 patients with the Omicron variant to leave the hospital or COVID-19 treatment center if they wish to undergo their treatment at home. The press release stated, "If a patient has a decent home, he or she can be treated separately from his or her family and must comply with the standard operating procedures for the management, care, and treatment of COVID-19 patients at home, with the requirement of reporting the situation to local authorities." In addition to allowing patients to stay at home, the Ministry of Health has also decided to modify the procedures for treating patients entering Cambodia who have been positively diagnosed with Omicron. The new procedures state that all passengers who are positive for the Omicron variant can also choose to receive treatment without having to go to a hospital or COVID-19 treatment center. Foreigners are allowed to be treated at the embassy hotel or other residence of their choice, while Cambodians are allowed to stay at home. The statement added, as was the case with COVID-19 Alpha or Delta patients, adhering to standard operating procedures for the management, care, and treatment of COVID-19 patients at home is mandatory. If there are health risk factors, patients may choose to seek treatment at a public or private COVID-19 hospital or clinic that is licensed to treat COVID-19. On Friday, 21st January, Prime Minister Hun Sen sent a special message on his decision to allow foreign travelers who have tested positive for the Omicron variant to be treated at home, at a hotel or embassy, and to allow all Omicron patients who are being treated at public hospitals to go home to complete their treatment if they wished. This decision came after the Prime Minister identified that although the new COVID-19 variant spreads faster, it is less dangerous compared to the previous Delta and Alpha variants. Cambodia is one of the leading countries in the region and the world in the fight against COVID-19. The country has fully reopened since 1st November 2021, and to date, nearly 14 million Cambodians have been fully vaccinated against COVID-19, equal to nearly 90% of the 16 million. The Ministry of Health released a statement on Monday reminding all people who will partake in preparations for ancestral offerings in upcoming festivals and ceremonies to be careful about the possibility of transmitting bird flu from animals to people in the community. EAC News reporter Robin Lim has more details.
The Ministry of Health stated that every year, some people partake in making various offerings during ancestral ceremonies, with the purchase and circulations of birds being a major aspect that may increase the risk of bird flu transmission in the community. The H5N1 strain of the bird flu virus in the animals and in the environment have been known to infect humans at any time if not properly prevented. The ministry urges people to continue their personal vigilance and duty to avoid direct interactions with livestock, animal at farm and poultry markets, entering slaughterhouses or making contact with surfaces used to cut poultry or other animals and which could thus be contaminated with the virus. The ministry also reminded citizens to be careful about congestion and crowds when buying food, poultry and other materials, and recommendations going a few days early to buy materials in advance to avoid the crowds and markets or shops on the same days of ceremonies. They also called on authorities to set up surveillances and guidance units at live poultry markets to oversee the implementation of preventative measures to curb the spread of bird flu in their communities. In addition, the ministry urges people exhibiting bird flu symptoms such as having a fever over 38.5 degrees, cough, difficulty breathing, and a history of contact with sick or dead poultry at least 14 days before symptoms began to call the emergency number 115 and rush to the nearest hospital. Bird flu is a variety of influenza caused by infectious viruses that can be spread among not only birds but also humans and other animals. The H5N1 strain is the most common form of bird flu. The disease is dangerous to birds and can easily infect humans and other animals. According to the World Health Organization, H5N1 was first detected in humans in 1997, and 60% of those infected with the disease have died. The Ministry of Health in Cambodia declared the first case of bird flu in the country in 2005. And from 2005 to 2014, Cambodia recorded 56 cases and 37 deaths from the disease. Robin Lim, EAC News.
Prime Minister Hun Sen will meet with Myanmar military leader Min Aung Hlaing via video call tomorrow to monitor the situation in the country after the recent escalation of violence between the Myanmar military and armed rebel forces. The minister delegate attached to the Prime Minister, Kao Kim Hoon, told reporters after Prime Minister Hun Sen's virtual meeting with the Malaysian Prime Minister, Ismail Sabri Yaakob, that the reason for his planned meeting with Min Aung Hlaing tomorrow is to review the situation following his visit to Myanmar, particularly regarding the situation with Aung San Suu Kyi and the use of military in the ongoing armed conflict in the capital of Kaya State between the Myanmar military and armed rebel forces. During Prime Minister Hun Sen's visit to Myanmar, a joint statement was issued along with Myanmar military leader Min Aung Hlaing to ensure the coordination of the visit of special envoys to Myanmar to meet with all the parties involved in the conflict, including ethnic armed groups. On January 8th and 9th, a day after Prime Minister Hun Sen left Myanmar, the Myanmar army launched airstrikes targeting rebels in the city of Loi Ka, forcing thousands of people to flee their homes. On January 20th, the Cambodian Ministry of Foreign Affairs expressed concern over the armed conflict and called on all parties to accept a ceasefire, end all violence, and maintain the highest level of tolerance. The ministry also stated that the recent clashes have affected the progress achieved during the Prime Minister's state visit. The Minister of Interior, Saw King, has blamed a lack of cooperation between drug officials and the ministry responsible for giving licenses for the recent seizure of over 100 tons of drug-making ingredients from drug traffickers. Deputy Prime Minister Saw King expressed his concern for the health of the people, the social order, economy, and the image of the country due to this negligence. He urged to one particular minister responsible for providing import licenses, as well as drug authorities, to work together to determine the substances that can be used to produce drugs and to more closely monitor the use of such substances. He stated that Cambodia is a single state, so all state units must cooperate because all work is for the nation and for the people. He stressed that the ministry must be very careful when issuing licenses because otherwise they will be in debt to the Cambodian people in connection to the destruction of public health that comes with the illegal circulation of drugs. He instructed drug authorities to make a list of all substances that can be used to make drugs and to send it to all relevant ministries for their awareness, and urged all relevant authorities to be meticulous in their monitoring and review so that the exact purpose for all substances entering the country can be noted. It is not exactly clear which minister the Deputy Prime Minister Saw King was referring to when he placed the blame for the oversight that allowed traffickers to abuse their import licenses and bring large quantities of drug ingredients into the country. The Secretary General of the National Authority for Combating Drugs, Mia Virat, told EAC News that more than 100 tons of suspected drug ingredients were seized last weekend at a warehouse in Kambol District, Phnom Penh. However, he was not able to confirm any more details. He added that this problem was caused by the lack of mechanisms in place to check and monitor substances that are not defined by the law. He said in the past, authorities use the old mechanisms to only check for those chemicals and materials which have been specified in the law, and for this reason, the national authority is currently in the process of reviewing a new mechanism to respond to the current situation, especially since new types of chemicals are now being used to make drugs. He further stated that the national authority is currently training the relevant departments to examine chemicals that can be used as drugs, and is also preparing a sub-decree on the mechanism to prevent and examine chemicals that can be used in combination to make drugs. In 2021, the Cambodian authorities cracked down on more than 6,000 drug cases, arrested more than 13,700 people, and confiscated more than 4.5 tons of drugs. Compared to 2020, the number of cases and the arrest of people had decreased, but the amount of drugs seized increased by more than 1.5 tons. Two Thai border patrol helicopters flew into Cambodian airspace at a depth of about 200 meters at the target point of Chan Kiri in Phnom Rung village in Ban Thi Minche province at 3:22 p.m. on Monday. This is according to a report from the border police at station number 815. EAC News reporter Robin Lim has more details.
The commander of the 815th Border Police, Colonel Suong Sao, said that two Thai border patrol helicopters, including one during border inspection, flew into Cambodian territory at Chan Kiri target point in Phnom Rung village, Bong Bang commune in the Malay district of Ban Thi Minche province at a depth of about 200 meters, height of 400 meters, and was moving in a direction from north to south, with Derm Canal in Chre village of Bong Bang commune as the target. The helicopters traveled a distance of about 2 kilometers before turning back into Thai territory. Colonel Suong Sao stated that Cambodian border police still do not know the main reason for this cross-border flight, but after questioning Thai Border Patrol commander at the 125th station, the Thai side had apologized for flying over Cambodian territory. In October 2012, Thai military helicopters also flew into Cambodian territory in the Thai Minh area of Kok Kong province while Cambodian border forces fired warning shots in response. Robin Lim, EAC News.
4 fire trucks were donated to the Phnom Penh Municipal Police by the government of Japan under the Japanese government's Grant Assistance for Grassroots Human Security Projects, also known as the Kusanone Grant, in order to help improve the city's firefighting capacity. EAC News reporter Anthony Ellis has more.
The handover ceremony of the 4 fire trucks took place on Monday morning in presence of the Phnom Penh Governor, Kong Sreng, and the Japanese Ambassador to Cambodia, Mikiami Masahiro, at the headquarters of Phnom Penh Municipal Police Russikiol district. The Japanese government provided Phnom Penh Municipal Police Fire and Rescue Department with 2 standard fire trucks, 1 chemical fire truck and 1 40-metre ladder fire truck, which will contribute to facilitate the work and increase the capacity of the fire brigade. Japan's Kusanani grant began in Cambodia in 1991 to support Cambodia's efforts to develop and rebuild the countries at the grassroots level. To date, the government of Japan has provided more than $64 million in grants to local authorities and NGOs to implement a total of 651 projects. Anthony Ellis, EAC News.
Prime Minister Hun Sen had a virtual meeting with Myanmar military leader Min Aung Hlaing on Wednesday afternoon to discuss the situation in Myanmar since his official state visit to the country earlier this month. During the meeting, Prime Minister Hun Sen reminded the military leader to remain patient and honor his commitment to implement the 5-point consensus of ASEAN. He further stated that it is necessary for Myanmar to facilitate the ASEAN Special Envoy of the Chair to visit Myanmar for the first time, to be very patient in maintaining the ceasefire, and to join ASEAN in ensuring the provision of citizens' assistance in Myanmar. The minister delegate attached to the Prime Minister, Kao Kim Hoon, stressed to reporters after the meeting between the Prime Minister and General Min Aung Hlaing that the Prime Minister specifically requested this call to make sure the Myanmar military leader pays attention to the appeal on this point. The meeting between Prime Minister Hun Sen and Min Aung Hlaing this afternoon followed renewed violence between the military and armed rebel forces in Myanmar's Rakhine state, which has forced tens of thousands of people to flee their homes. So far, 2 ASEAN countries, Indonesia and Malaysia, have expressed their desire to maintain their representation of Myanmar if there is no crisis with the ASEAN 5-point consensus for Myanmar. This means that Myanmar's spot in the ASEAN summit will be left open or will have non-political representatives in attendance. ASEAN's 5-point consensus for Myanmar calls for an end to the violence, the establishment of multilateral dialogue, and the agreement to the coordination of ASEAN special envoys to visit the country and provide humanitarian assistance. Prime Minister Hun Sen has expressed surprise that his own book titled Unbreakable Love, which was translated into Chinese by the Cambodian Chinese Association, had sold out in a short period of time. EAC News reporter Sraipor Kong has more details.
Prime Minister Hun Sen wrote on his Facebook page on Wednesday that 1,500 copies of his book in Chinese were sold in a short period of time, earning a total of $7,500, which he said would be used to build homes for veterans to live in. The veterans are the ones that the Prime Minister cares about the most. He considered veterans to be the ones who have the greatest merit for the people of the motherland of Cambodia, and who have contributed to building peace and social stability to this day. On the occasion of receiving the Peace Gold Medal from the Universal Peace Federation on 12 September 2021, Prime Minister Hun Sen had announced he would be donated the $1 million he received in prize money to build a house for veterans. Currently, more than 100,000 veterans receive monthly social security from the state. Since April 2020, the royal government has increased the monthly social security allowance for veterans to 640,000 reals per month, including the monthly family allowance and 50,000 real for the Khmer New Year. Sraipor Kong, EAC News.
New Zealand Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern announced on Sunday that she had cancelled her wedding as new restrictions were imposed across the nation to slow the outbreak of COVID-19 Omicron cases in the community. New Zealand Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern is postponing her wedding after announcing new COVID-19 restrictions on Sunday, following the discovery of 9 cases of the Omicron variant in a single family that flew to Auckland to attend a wedding. The red setting of the country's pandemic response includes heightened measures such as required mask wearing and limits on gatherings. The restrictions will go into effect on Monday. New Zealand will impose mask rules and limit gatherings from midnight on Sunday after the cluster of 9 COVID-19 Omicron cases showed a community spread of the virus from the North to South Islands.
As for mine, my wedding will not be going ahead, but I just join many other New Zealanders who have had an experience like that as a result of the pandemic, and to anyone who's caught up in that scenario, I'm so sorry, but we are all so resilient, and I know we understand that we're doing this for one another, and I know that will help us continue on. Oh, such is life. We don't yet have a clear lead on the index case that links this family to the border, as we have with our other Omicron cases to date. That means Omicron is now circulating in Auckland and possibly the Nelson Marlborough region, if not elsewhere. On that basis, as we have previously signalled, the whole of New Zealand will move into the red setting of the traffic light system at 11:59 p.m. tonight, Sunday, 23 January. Our plan is simple: get boosted, wear a mask in indoor settings and outdoors when you can't distance from others, and reduce contacts as much as practical in those environments. Omicron is now in more than 80 countries around the world. By delaying its arrival here, we've had the time to kick off boosters, vaccination for children, and prepare.
A family returned to Nelson in the South Island by plane after attending a wedding and other events in Auckland in the North Island. The family and a flight attendant have tested positive. New Zealand will move to a red setting under its COVID-19 protection framework, with more mask wearing. Indoor hospitality settings such as bars and restaurants and events like weddings will be capped at 100 people. The limit is lowered to 25 people if venues are not using vaccine passes, Ardern said. New Zealand's borders have been shut to foreigners since March 2020. The government pushed back plans for a phased reopening from mid-January to the end of February out of concern about a potential Omicron outbreak as seen in neighbouring Australia. About 94% of New Zealand's population over the age of 12 is fully vaccinated, and about 56% of those eligible have had booster shots. Belgian police fired water cannons and tear gas Sunday at stone-throwing protesters after tens of thousands of demonstrators have marched through Brussels against COVID-19 rules.
Authorities have estimated that around 50,000 people paraded through the Belgian capital, the largest in a spate of protests in the city over the past months. Clashes have broke out close to the headquarters of the European Union as police used water cannon and tear gas to push back hundreds of protesters who hurled paving stones and firecrackers. European Union Foreign Policy Chief Josep Borrell has condemned the senseless destruction and violence after masked attackers have smashed a glass entrance at the offices of the bloc diplomatic service. Officers were later forced to seek shelter in a metro station as they were pelted with metal barriers. Police have said that around 70 people were arrested, including a dozen for more serious offenses, including throwing projectiles and damaging property. 3 officers and 12 demonstrators were hospitalized, but none were in a life-threatening condition. Belgium's Prime Minister Alexander De Croo says freedom of expression is one of the foundations of our society. Everyone is free to express their opinion, but our society will never accept indiscriminate violence, and even less towards our police forces. Those involved this Sunday will be prosecuted. A sandwich shop in the European External Action Service building were damaged during the protest, with glass broken and debris inside and outside the buildings. Earlier, protesters had thrown wood at the police. Prime Minister De Croo has announced Friday, January 21, that people will need booster shots after 5 months to maintain COVID-19 passes, giving access to bars or cinemas. That 5-month limit is among the tightest in Europe. For neighboring France, it is 7 months, while the European Union-wide guide for travel within the bloc is set at 9. COVID-19 infections in Belgium are at their peak now at 40,929 new infections reported each day. There have been 2,697,239 infections and 28,780 coronavirus-related deaths reported in the country since the pandemic began.
Ukraine's ambassador extraordinary and plenipotentiary to the United Kingdom, Vadim Pristaiko, has said on Sunday, January 23rd, he was not surprised by Britain's allegations that Russia was planning to install a puppet government in Ukraine.
Ukrainian diplomat Vadim Pristaiko says he has already expected as a logical next step in Russian invasion. They will invade Ukraine and they will have to establish some sort of government. It is not surprising for the Ukraine's ambassador to the United Kingdom. Britain's foreign ministry has said that on Sunday that Moscow was considering former Ukrainian lawmaker Yevhen Murayev as a potential candidate to lead Ukraine if Russia launched an invasion, and said Russian intelligence officers were in contact with several other former Ukrainian politicians about planning an attack.
I believe Putin sees himself in the history books, but the question is what he wanted to be written there, that he reunited the Soviet Union back, which he believed was the global geopolitical catastrophe when it collapsed. We believe that he can be somebody who would probably find the peace with the Russians themselves and will take care of the Russians, because they have to be taken care better than they are now. I believe they are working now on presumption that Putin will stop at some particular point. He's just raising the stakes. Again, I do understand how sensitive people are here to be sending people anywhere, soldiers. And believe me, Ukrainians also wouldn't like to send their children to war. The problem is that somebody even reminding us, hey guys, you're not a member of NATO, and poking us each and every second. This is not helping for sure. So UK's position, United States position, some of us, the next partners like neighbors to us, this position is important. Guys, realize your strengths. We will help you, but everybody's trying to stay away from even the thinking of sending soldiers on battles. Absolutely, I do believe that when these peaceful divorce happened 30 plus years ago, and all of us decided that we'll go our different paths peacefully, as a form of living in the same flat and decided to find a better place. It doesn't mean that we have to fight each other, but look at what happened with Belarus, with Kazakhstan. Now Ukraine is the biggest chunk and the most important part in this puzzle.
Ukrainian lawmaker Murayev has dismissed British allegations that he could be installed as leader of a Kremlin puppet government in Kyiv, and has said that he was considering legal action. Kyiv and its Western allies have sounded the alarm over Russia massing troops near Ukraine's border. Russia denies plans to attack, but he has pressed for security guarantees, including a block on Ukraine joining the NATO alliance. Ambassador Pristaiko says he believes countries are working on the presumption that Putin will stop at some particular point. He's just raising the stakes. Everybody's trying to stay away from even the thinking of sending soldiers on battle.
The U.S. State Department has issued an announcement on Sunday that it was ordering diplomats' family members to leave Ukraine as U.S. President Joe Biden weighed options for boosting America's military assets in Eastern Europe to counter a buildup of Russian troops. Ukrainian Foreign Ministry has made a statement on January 24th that the U.S. step to move their diplomats' families out of Kyiv is premature and a manifestation of excessive caution.
The order, which has allowed U.S. diplomats stationed at the embassy in the Ukrainian capital, Kyiv, to leave voluntarily, was one of the clearest signs, yet the American officials are bracing for an aggressive Russian move in the region. Military action by Russia could come at any time, the U.S. Embassy has said in a statement. Officials will not be in a position to evacuate American citizens in such a contingency, so U.S. citizens currently present in Ukraine should plan accordingly, it added. The British Embassy in Ukraine has also said on Monday that some staff and dependents were being withdrawn from Kyiv in response to a growing threat from Russia. Although the British Embassy remains open and will continue to carry out essential work. Tensions in Ukraine have been increasing for months after the Kremlin massed some 100,000 troops near Ukraine's border. A dramatic build-up, the West says, is preparation for a war to prevent Ukraine from ever joining the NATO Western Security Alliance. The Kremlin has repeatedly denied planning to invade, but the Russian military already tore off a chunk of Ukrainian territory when it seized Crimea and backed separatist forces who took control of large parts of eastern Ukraine 8 years ago.
China on Sunday, 23rd January, has turned on the mode for hosting the 2022 Winter Olympics, with each competition venue under closed-loop management, almost 2 weeks ahead of the opening ceremony of Beijing 2022.
From January 23 onwards, the Beijing 2022 Games Time Operation Command Center will operate 24 hours a day, directly coordinating the operation of each venue during the Games. Starting the Winter Olympic mode ahead of time, the Beijing Organization Committee for the 2022 Beijing Winter Olympics will be able to get ready to make sure everything under control before the opening of the Winter Olympics. During this time period, the committee will put an emphasis on the transportation, accommodation, and catering for athletes, while giving priority to security operations, document management, epidemic prevention and control, pre-game exercises, and backup support. Also on Sunday, 3 Olympic villages in downtown and Yangjing district of Beijing and in Zhangjiakou city of neighboring Hebei province have pre-opened to welcome the first group of 22 delegations from various countries and regions, including teams of China, Great Britain, and Australia. From January 23 to 27, the first member of the delegation will check in the Olympic village in the groups. The 3 Olympic villages will officially open on January 27 to welcome the main contingent of the delegation a week before the Olympic Winter Games officially start.
The head of the World Health Organization has said on Monday, January 24th, it would be dangerous to assume that the highly transmissible Omicron was the last variant to emerge and that the world was in the endgame of the pandemic.
The World Health Organization General Director Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus has said it's possible this year to exit the acute phase of the pandemic where COVID-19 constitutes a global health emergency if strategies and tools such as testing and vaccines are used in a comprehensive way. Speaking at the opening of Executive Board meeting, Tedros has mentioned since Omicron was first identified a little over 9 weeks ago, more than 80 million cases had been reported to the United Nations agency, more than were reported in the whole of 2020. Conditions are ideal for more variants to emerge, he added.
There are different scenarios for how the pandemic could play out and how the acute phase could end. But it's dangerous to assume that Omicron will be the last variant or that we are in the end game. On the contrary, globally, the conditions are ideal for more variants to emerge. To change the course of the pandemic, we must change the conditions that are driving it. If countries use all of these strategies and tools in a comprehensive way, we can end the acute phase of the pandemic this year. We can end COVID-19 as a global health emergency, and we can do it this year. What does that look like? It means achieving our target to vaccinate 70% of the population of every country with a focus on the most at-risk groups.
In March and April 2021, Russia amassed about 100,000 soldiers and military equipment near its border with Ukraine, representing the highest force mobilization since the country's annexation of Crimea in 2014. This precipitated an international crisis and generated concerns over a potential invasion. On Monday, the Kremlin has accused the United States and its allies of escalating East-West tensions by announcing plans to boost NATO forces in Eastern Europe and evacuate the families of diplomats from the U.S. Embassy in Ukraine. Currently, Russia and Ukraine are engaged in the Russo-Ukrainian War, which started in 2014 following the Russian annexation of Crimea from Ukraine and saw an escalation in early 2021. After the Soviet Union's dissolution in 1991, the successor states' bilateral relations have undergone periods of ties, tensions, and outright hostility. In the early 1990s, Ukraine's policy was dominated by aspirations to ensure its sovereignty and independence, followed by a foreign policy that balanced cooperation with the EU, Russia, and other powerful polities. Relations between the two countries have been hostile since the Revolution of Dignity, which toppled Ukraine's elected president, Viktor Yanukovych, and his supporters, because he refused to sign a political association and free trade agreement with the European Union that enjoyed majority support in Ukraine's parliament. Ukraine's post-revolutionary government wished to commit the country to a future within the EU and NATO, rather than continue to play the delicate diplomatic game of balancing its own economic and security interests with those of Russia, the EU, and NATO members. In 2004, the Czech Republic, Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Poland, and Slovakia had joined the EU, followed by Bulgaria and Romania in 2007. The Russian government feared that Ukraine's membership of the EU and NATO would complete a Western wall of allied countries by restricting Russia's access to the Black Sea. With South Korea and Japan being allied to the US, the Russian government was concerned that Russia was being ring-fenced by potentially hostile powers. In the wake of the Revolution of Dignity, Russia backed separatist militias in the Donetsk People's Republic and the Luhansk People's Republic in a war in Ukraine's economically important Donbas region on its eastern border with Russia. This region has a Russian ethnic majority. By early 2020, the war in Donbas had killed more than 13,000 people and brought some Western sanctions on Russia. Throughout 2021, Russian military buildup on the border of Ukraine has escalated tensions between the two countries and strained bilateral relations, with the United States sending a strong message that invasion would be met with dire consequences for Russia's economy. These events continue in 2022. The Russian Foreign Ministry has announced several demands in December 2021, including a prohibition in Ukraine joining the North Atlantic Treaty Organization and a decrease of NATO soldiers and military equipment in Eastern Europe in exchange for the withdrawal of Russian armed forces. The United States and other NATO members have rejected these requests and have warned Russia of increased economic sanctions should it invade Ukraine. Bilateral U.S.-Russia diplomatic talks were held in January 2022, but did not diffuse the crisis. The crisis has been described as one of the most intense since the Cold War. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov has admitted the possibility of conflict is present and now it is very high. It's now higher than before. New York City Mayor Eric Adams on Monday, January 24th, has announced a plan to end gun violence in a city reeling from the fatal shooting of a police officer and a spate of violent crimes, as he promised to increase police officers in New York's most violence-plagued communities.
Adams, a former police captain, has said the plan would deliver on his November's election campaign, flexed by deploying more officers, stemming the flows of guns into the cities and appointing anti-gun violence coordinators in every city agency. We are turning our pain into purpose, he said at a news conferencing following a series of highly publicized lethal crimes in the city since he has sworn in on January 1st.
Today, we are releasing our blueprint to end gun violence. I want to be clear. This is not just a plan for the future. It is a plan for right now. Gun violence is a public health crisis. There's no time to wait. We must act. The sea of violence comes from many rivers. We must dam every river that feeds this greater crisis. Our blueprint to end gun violence addresses each one of these causes with both immediate interventions and long-term prevention strategies. It will involve the NYPD, every city agency, our courts, and the successful anti-violence crisis management system. We're going to involve every community, every precinct, and our state and federal partners. New Yorkers will see and feel these changes quickly. We will ramp up enforcement, deploy more officers on the streets and in the subways, and get our courts at full capacity. This is the gun that killed our young officer on Friday night, a .45 caliber modified gun. It is illegal to carry a gun in our city, yet our police officers take them off the streets every day in record numbers. Since January 1st, when I took office, our officers have taken 350 illegal guns off the street. Last year, over 6,000 guns were confiscated. Our officers are doing heroic work getting guns off the streets, but traffickers keep the guns coming. That must end. We must stop the flow of illegal guns in our city. The iron pipeline must be broken. The NYPD is our first line of defense against gun violence. We will make new efforts to strengthen and reinforce it while continuing our mission to involve the community. We will start by putting more officers on patrol in key neighborhoods throughout the city. We will enhance existing public safety units with new neighborhood safety teams, which will focus on gun violence. We will launch these additional teams in the next 3 weeks with deep focus on 30 precincts where 80% of violence occurs, even as the public safety units continue their life-saving work. In doing this, we will avoid mistakes of the past. These officers will be identifiable as NYPD. They will have body cameras and they will have enhanced training and oversight. There are no gun manufacturers in New York City. Yet, even as the NYPD removed 6,000 guns from our streets last year, we know that new guns are arriving by car, by bus, and by train every day. The NYPD will work with state law enforcement to implement spot checks at every entry point like Port Authority and other bus and train stations. We will also move forward on using the latest in technology to identify problems, follow up on leads, and collect evidence. From facial recognition technology to new tools that can spot those carrying weapons, we will use every available method to keep our people safe.
2 police officers were shot in Harlem on Friday while responding to a domestic violence call, leaving one dead and the other in critical conditions. 2 other officers were shot in a separate incident last week in other parts of the city. As in many U.S. cities, murders and gun violence have surged over the past 2 years in New York. Experts say the trend partly reflects the social disruption from the pandemics and its effects of reducing the numbers of police officers on duties. The city counted 488 murders last year, up 5.6% over 2020 following a 47% jump a year earlier. The biggest year-to-year percentage increase ever recorded in the country's most popular city. The spike ended a fairly steady decline in murders since 1990 when the numbers peaked at 2,245. Shooting doubled from 2019 to 1,532 in 2020 and increased 2% in 2021, according to city statistics. The blueprint to end gun violence will within 3 weeks put more police officers on patrol in 30 of cities' 70 precincts, where 80% of cities' violence occur, Adhanom said. The officers identifiable as New York Police Department employees will have body-worn cameras and enhanced trainings and oversight. Travelers into New York City will be screened for illegal guns with facial recognition technology at new spot checks at various entry points. City authorities confiscate illicit firearms on a regular basis, with 6,000 removed in 2021, but new guns enter the cities at a faster rate, according to Adhanom. Adhanom encouraged prosecutors to triage gun cases to ensure they are the first cases brought to court, and urged lawmakers to reduce the numbers of guns that a person must traffic before they can be charged with a felony.
Ukraine is committed to seeking a diplomatic solution to the current tension with Russia, its ambassador to Japan, Sergei Korsunsky, has said on Wednesday, January 26th, adding that he saw little chance of an all-out war, although there might be smaller conflicts.
Ukraine's Japan envoy, Ambassador Sergei Korsunsky, has warned an attack on a country with more than a dozen nuclear reactors would bring about a devastating regional impact on Europe.
I believe that full-scale war is very, very, very difficult to expect. but we may see more localized conflict. If it comes to military terms, let me tell you, we are very much ready. Our army is very well prepared.
The ambassador further says that Ukraine is getting prepared every day. Everything possible, they prepare and get ready for the military assault. But at the same time, Ukraine is working hard to find a diplomatic solution. Russia has massed tens of thousands of troops on its borders with Ukraine, and Western states fear Moscow is planning a new assault on a country it invaded in 2014 to annex the Crimean Peninsula.
You're watching EAC News. Thanks for joining us. And now for a look at news making international headlines this Monday, 21st January.
A footage shows a Kurdish-led Syrian Democratic Forces firing at Al-Sinai prison on Saturday, January 22, after they have repelled an Islamic State attack to break out inmates with the support of airstrikes by a US-led coalition. In the said footage, bodies were seen left on the pavement as SDF affiliates have clashed with what were said to be Islamic State militants. Islamic State has said via Telegram its militants have waged a wide-scale attack on the prison on northeastern Syria since Thursday, January 20, and that clashes were ongoing nearby in other neighborhoods. Islamic State has said via Telegram its militants had waged a wide-scale attack on the prison in northeastern Syria since Thursday night, January 20, and that clashes were ongoing nearby and in other neighborhoods. Guiran prison in the city of Hasakeh is believed to house more than 5,000 suspected Islamic State militants, including hundreds of children, mostly Arab detainees ranging from suspected militants to civilians, in conditions civic groups say are inhumane with severe overcrowding. IS fighters use vehicles and explosives to ram through the prison walls before entering the building with heavy machine guns late last week. Prison inmates rioted and some took Kurdish guards hostage, while a number of other prison staff were killed. Syrian Kurdish forces initially said they have defeated the fighters, but they later acknowledged that inmates had taken over part of the prison. Some of the militants staged another attack on the prison on Sunday to try to help members of the group still in charge of parts of the facility. SDF General Commander Mazloum Abdi has said that the area around the prison was completely surrounded and all fugitives were arrested. In Washington, the Pentagon has confirmed the US-led coalition had carried out airstrikes in support of the SDF as it dealt with the prison break. A military source in the Kurdish-led forces said they killed 23 Islamic State militants, including foreigners, in the clashes after the jihadist group attempted to free prisoners from the jail in Hasaka. Residents of the Guiran area in the prison's vicinity said intermittent fighting continued in parts of the neighborhood where some of the fleeing prisoners who had taken shelter remain. At least 5 civilians were killed during a security operation mounted by Kurdish forces in residential areas around the prison, community elders said. 7 members of the SDF and an allied security force called the Asayes were killed in the attack, the SDF military source has confirmed. The SDF said it had detained 89 militants in the area of the prison.
A fight broke out between Congress members of Honduras President-elect Xiomara Castro's party during a Congress session on Friday, January 21st. Members of the Free Party have fought amongst themselves after Congressman Jorge Calix was elected as Congress president instead of Luis Redondo. Castro had agreed with the ally party, Honduras Savior Party, that Redondo would be elected for that position. Nevertheless, 20 of Free Party's Congress members have voted against Redondo. President-elect Castro has said the treason has been consummated. Inside the Congress floor, Free Party members have chanted Xiomara and traitors. Free Party Congressman Jerry Dixon says the assault on the Congress was planned yesterday. They were assembled with the nationalists and left behind their peers, their friends, their president, and their coordinator. Castro will take office as president next week on January 27th amidst internal tensions within the party.
And action movie star Arnold Schwarzenegger was involved in a car crash on Friday, January the 21st, that resulted in one person being taken to hospital with minor injuries, as reported by local police. The 74-year-old former governor of California and star of The Terminator was not injured in the multi-vehicle collision which involved the GMC Yukon and the red Toyota Prius with two other vehicles. Footage from the scene shows the Prius being towed away. There were no arrests made. A statement from the LAPD says neither alcohol or drugs were a suspected factor in this collision, but did not mention what they thought the reason for the crash. A spokesman has said Arnold Schwarzenegger was fine after being involved in a car crash that sent a woman to the hospital with minor injuries.
And now for a look at news making international headlines this Tuesday, 25th January.
Authorities in Ghana have started clearing the site of a major explosion that resulted in at least 17 dead and dozens of injured. The explosion happened on Thursday, 20 January, when a vehicle carrying mining explosives has collided with a motorcycle in the village of Apiate in western Ghana. A footage of the scene in the rural community of Apiate shows a massive crater roughly 66 feet at the epicenter of the detonation, which reduced hundreds of buildings to piles of wood and rubble, with bodies seen amongst the debris. The Deputy Director General of the National Disaster Management Organization has reported around 500 buildings were destroyed. It was not immediately clear what caused the accident. The truck was owned by a company called Maxam that was transporting explosives to the Chinraro gold mine run by Toronto-based Kinross Gold Corporation, police said. Kinross has announced that it will provide support to the response efforts and relief items to those affected. Maxam could not be reached for comment. The Ministry of Lands and Natural Resources is investigating the cause of the blast and whether the companies involved followed regulations covering transportation of explosives, it said in a statement.
A 1,500-acre fire near the coastal community of Big Sur, California has triggered evacuations and closed part of the major highway. State and local officials announced Saturday, January 22nd. The California Department of Forestry and Fire Protection has said that the 5% of the Colorado fire, which has been active since Friday, has so far been contained. More than 32 kilometres of State Highway 1, a scenic north-south route of the Pacific coast, was closed from near the beach town of Camel by the Sea to Andrew Mora State Park. About 400 people in Monterey County were evacuated from 1,100 structures. A spokesman from American Red Cross has confirmed, citing county reports. California has long had an active wildfire season, but in recent years, fueled at least in part by climate change. It has grown longer and more punishing. According to CAL FIRE, last year, the wildfire season started unusually early amid an ongoing drought and low reservoir levels. In January 2021 alone, the state battled 297 fires across 1,171 acres of forest. The Colorado fire is only fire listed on CAL FIRE incident list so far in 2022. This year, California is also grappling with the Santa Ana winds. A high wind warning was in effect for the area, with possible gusts up to 112.65 kilometres per hour, according to the National Weather Service. But according to Red Cross, winds had improved and were forecast to remain light throughout the weekend.
Russian Defense Ministry has released on Monday, January 24, a footage of the Russian army loading flat car with military hardware to send it to Belarus from the far eastern Amur region for the joint drills. Russian military forces and hardware began arriving in Belarus this week for the Allied Resolve drill, to be held near the former Soviet Republic western border with NATO members Poland and Lithuania, and close to its southern flank with Ukraine. Western state fear that Russia, which has massed tens of thousands of troops on its border with Ukraine, is planning a new assault on a country invaded in 2014. Russia has denied such plans. Lithuania has also said the buildup of Russian troops there was a threat to its security.
And now for a look at news making international headlines this Wednesday, 26 January.
The roof of a cargo warehouse has collapsed at Istanbul airport after heavy snowfall hit the city on Monday, January 24. A footage shows several people walking around rubble inside the damaged warehouse during the blizzard. It also shows people walking through heavy snow outside the airport in cars slowly driving on a nearby road blanketed in white. Turkish authorities have temporarily stopped all flights at Istanbul airport on Monday, while winter weather has snarled transportation across the country. The heavy snowfall also put a stop to some of Istanbul's ferry services, shut some roads, and caused visibility problems for drivers. Nationwide, the Disaster and Emergency Authority has said some 4,600 people were stranded due to weather, and more than 6,700 were taken to shelters, while thousands of containers of food supplies were delivered to those in need. Many parts of Turkey have been hit with heavy snowfall since last week, which coincide with a winter break at most schools. Turkey's flag carrier Turkish Airlines has said it had canceled all flights from Istanbul airport until Tuesday to ensure travel safety and for all their passengers and to prevent them from being stranded at airports.
A medical group has announced 3 more people were killed in Sudan on Monday, 24 January, as thousands of people once again took to the streets of the capitals and other cities. Of the 2 protesters killed, one was shot in the chest and the others in the head, the group have said. And dozens of protesters were injured in the capital, Khartoum, and the cities of Omdurman, where Sudanese security forces fired live rounds and tear gas during protests against military rules that attract tens of thousands of people across the country, medics have said. Such protests, along with barricades throughout the capitals and the general strike last week, have continued since the military took powers on October 25, ending a partnership with civilian political parties since the removals of Omar al-Bashir as Sudan ruler in 2019. Some 76 civilians have been killed and more than 2,000 injured in crackdowns on the protests, according to the Central Committees of Sudanese Doctors, which is aligned with the protest movement mainly by gunshots and tear gas canisters. Police could not immediately be reached for comment. Protesters chanted and marched as security forces threw tear gas. A protester who participated to several demonstrations and got injured has said that he won't stop marching. I was hit on the 6th of January in my feet and was hit here showing his head in the head on 10th of January. Today is the 24th. I'm still marching. I will march tomorrow and the day after tomorrow until we die, he bravely said. Sudan military leaders have said the right to peaceful protest is protested. The Sovereign Council. Sudan military leaders have said the right to peaceful protest is protested. The Sovereign Council, Sudan higher authorities run by the military, received a briefing on the works of the committees investigating protesters that, it said in a statement, the violence has deepened the deadlock between pro-democracy group and the military leaderships. A witness recounts security forces using tear gas and stun grenades as protesters stood 1.2 kilometers from the presidential palace. In the cities of Bari and Omdurman, other witnesses saw a heavy security presence and tear gas fire on the main road. The protests were called by neighborhood resistance committees, which advocate a stance of no legitimacy, no negotiation, no partnership toward the military. One committee has reported the arrest of at least 4 members. Another said its headquarters were raided. There were also light protests in the cities of Madani, where witnesses said protesters marched toward the house of a protester killed on Friday before heading to the State of Government building. Last week, the United States has condemned the use of force against protesters, saying it would consider additional measures.
The North Atlantic Treaty Organization has said on Monday, January 24th, it was putting forces on standby and have reinforced Eastern Europe with more ships and fighter jets in what Russia denounced as Western hysteria in response to its buildup of troops on the Ukraine border. Denmark is sending 4 F-16 fighter jets and a frigate to NATO's operations in the Baltic region and Northern Europe. The frigate Peter Welmos has left port last week and will strengthen one of NATO's standing naval forces, Standing NATO Maritime Group 1, which usually operates in the Baltic Sea as well as the Northern and Eastern Atlantic. According to the Danish Armed Forces, the Peter Welmos will be part of the force until the end of April.
EAC News fully supports the Royal Government of Cambodia's preventative and administrative measures against COVID-19. But we need you to play your part in helping bring the 20 February community transmission event to an end. Wash your hands regularly, sanitize wherever possible. Keep an eye on your body temperature. Use the Stop COVID QR code and maintain a safe social distance. But above all, please, 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 wear a mask. Only together can we beat COVID-19. If it's happening and you need to know about it, you'll get it all right here. EAC News brings you updates and breaking news in English across all of our platforms and channels. The EAC News app, YouTube, Facebook, Telegram, Twitter, and our website www.eacnews.asia. Join me, Andrew Barnes-Roberts, and the rest of the EAC News team every day on your favorite channels. EAC News, Cambodia made clear.
The Phnom Penh Capital Administration has issued a proclamation banning the use of fireworks and explosives of all kinds during the upcoming 2022 Lunar New Year, to avoid affecting the health of the sick, as well as affecting the security and social order of society. EAC News reporter Straipor Kong has more.
In the proclamation dated Tuesday, 25 January, the Phnom Penh Capital Administration ordered the confiscation and ban on the use of fireworks and all kinds of explosives from 31 January to 3 February to avoid any incidents. The Phnom Penh Capital Administration also ordered the relevant authority to monitor, prevent, and remind the people in Phnom Penh not to set fireworks or explosives of any kind during the festival. In addition to banning fireworks, the Phnom Penh Municipal Administration also prohibits all forms of gambling and other unauthorized religious or traditional marches. In particular, the burning of kerosene must be done in metal containers or at third port. It is strictly forbidden to burn kerosene on the sidewalk or on public roads. Entertainment venues across the city must adhere to health measures to prevent the spread of COVID-19, especially the Omicron variant, maintain security, safety, public order, dignity, and be careful in lighting candles, incense stick, and electric stove that could cause fire if left unattended. The Department of Cult and Religion of Phnom Penh and the 14 district departments and units around the capital administration shall disseminate the instruction to the China-Vietnam Association, civil servants, subordinates, and local people to be aware of this instruction. Phnom Penh Capital Administration urged citizens to take action against those who violate this instruction or commit crime that cause social unrest, disorder, affect security, safety, and public order, to punish them according to the law enforced. Sri Pokong, EAC News.
The Hun Sen political party has decided to postpone its Congress to early February, as the party states that the current acting chairman and party members are currently busy with other activities at the grassroots level. EAC News reporter Chamrong Ritisit has more.
The Hun Sen party has previously planned in December to hold a Congress at the end of January to elect a new party chairman. Hun Sen spokesman Nun Radain has told EAC News that the delay has caused no problem, since it has 90 days to elect a new president. He also confirmed that the party has agreed to organize the leadership in accordance with the status already in place, and party members are just waiting for the days of the Congress. He continued that the Congress is now scheduled to be held in early February, where in addition to deciding on the elections of Prince Norodom Chakravuth as party president, the Congress will also set the goal to organize the Commune Districts Council elections and the 2022 national elections, as well as setting policies for the competitions. Former Hun Sen President Norodom Ranariddh died at the age of 77 in France on 28 November 2021. After his death, Hun Sen officially announced its preparation for a new Congress amid controversy between dissidents and supporters. On 20 January, the Ministers of Interior saw King of Prince Norodom Chakravuth to mediate within the party before holding a Congress to select a new party leaders. Chamrong Ritisit, EAC News.
The Ministry of Environment, together with the Ministry of Mines and Energy, is considering energy development projects for older power plants to increase electricity as well as stop emissions from burning black oil. EAC News reporter Srai Porkong has more.
Speaking at a press conference on the Cambodian Clean Air Plan on Tuesday, Under Secretary of State for the Ministry of Environment, Jacinda, said that the Ministry of Environment and the Ministry of Mines and Energy plan to repurpose small old power plants in Phnom Penh to modify and develop those factories to both improve power and reduce air pollution. He added that the collection of small power plants are under the project of the Ministry of Mines and Energy because of the low generation of energy from these plants and the impact this plant have on the population of people who live nearby. He said that the Ministry of Mines and Energy will take certain small power plants in Phnom Penh, such as those in Chaang Ray or in Tua Song Kai, hold their operations and remove them because they release too many harmful emissions, and the goal is to form a clean Phnom Penh. The two ministries acknowledge that these power plants have disrupted the life of people living nearby when in operation, as they emit black smoke as well as flame by running on black oil, unlike modern coal-fired plants. According to people who live in Turoka village in Min Chai district, the power plant in the area often produce sound and vibration that disturb residents, and the plant also emit a lot of smoke, which is very disrupting to residents. Under Secretary of State Jacinda said that this power plant has been operating since the community of the common people era and produces less than 10 megawatts of powers. He added that the factory operates by burning black oil, which causes smoke and debris to fall on nearby residents' homes while in operation. He continued that they have two options for these old power plants, either to relocate all those plants from within Phnom Penh or to stop all the operations immediately. Srepokong, EAC News.
The Ministry of Public Works and Transport is collecting information and investigating the case of a train collision in Sihanoukville on Tuesday, which caused 2 drivers to be injured and sent to hospital. The spokesman for the Ministry of Public Works and Transport, Kung Vimien, told EAC News that the Royal Railway team and authorities in Sihanoukville were now inspecting and gathering information on the accident. He said that the train company had also sent officials to work with the local authorities during the evening and this morning, but he was unable to provide other details since they are still waiting for the team to finish the investigation. The trains collided near 3 villages in Commune 3, Sihanoukville, and caused some damage, including the overturn of many train containers. The 2 train drivers were injured and taken to hospital, and the full cost of the damage is not yet known. The Cambodian Minister of Health, Mom Bun Heng, and the Deputy Director General of the National Administration of Traditional Chinese Medicine, Huang Luqi, have signed an agreement to send a team of traditional Chinese medicine experts to Cambodia to help strengthen COVID-19 prevention measures by integrating traditional Chinese medicine into treatment for the disease. EAC News reporter Chamrong Ritisit has more.
The agreement was reached during a meeting on Tuesday, 25th January, between the Ministers of Health, Mom Bun Heng, the Deputy Directors of the National Administration of Traditional Chinese Medicines, and the Presidents of the Chinese Academy of Chinese Medical Science, Huang Luqi, and the Chinese Ambassadors to Cambodia, Wang Wentien, with a delegations from the Ministries of Health in Phnom Penh. The meeting was organized to take place during Deputy Directors Huang Luqi visit to Cambodia, where he also visited the Cambodia-China Friendship Hospitals in Prek Sama, which is set to be inaugurated soon. Minister Mom Bun Heng agreed on the initiative to send Chinese traditional medicine experts to help treat COVID in Cambodia, and thanks the Chinese delegation for his cooperations. He stressed that this effort to strengthen the capacities of Cambodian health officials will last not just 4 years, but at the new Cambodia-China Friendship Hospitals, but will also be expanded to another hospital as well. Chamrong Ritisit, EAC News.
The Minister of Public Works and Transport, Senior Minister Sun Chanthol, said that the ministry will promote the work of information technology and the organization of the digital revolution in the field of public transport and logistics. At the annual meeting of the Ministry of Public Works and Transport, Senior Minister Sun Chanthol stated that the work of the ministry in 2022 involves information technology and the promotion of the digital revolution, the establishment of a telegram system to monitor and participate in the implementation of traffic law, participation in the implementation of the strategic framework, inspection of overweight vehicles in garages, vehicle processing and assembly, promotion of the use of electric vehicles, development of human resource training, and promotion and training of smartphone apps for citizen participation in road repair and maintenance. Senior Minister Sun Chanthol also mentioned the expansion of the campaign to tighten rules on wearing helmets, commemorating National Road Safety Day to remember the victims of traffic accidents, continuing to promote the management of land and roads through information technology or smartphone apps, and continuing to negotiate and encourage the private sector to invest in logistics centers in Phnom Penh and Sihanoukville and other important areas, especially border areas, based on the principle of building, operation, and transfer. The projects of the Ministry of Public Works and Transport which have been completed so far include the National and Rural Road Network, which has been built with more than 15,000 kilometers of rubber and concrete, upgrading the quality of the 2-layer rubber road to concrete, and it will be extended from 2 lanes to 4 lanes among some priority lanes. The number of cars and motorcycles on the road today has increased from 650,000 to 920,000 compared to 1998, while the number of motorcycles has increased from 200,000 to 5.2 million units.
Public bus driver Mao Sopal was summoned by the unit to get educated after a video of an altercation with a motorcyclist was shared on social media. EAC News reporter Chamrong Ritisit has more.
In its press release issued on Wednesday, the Phnom Penh Autonomous Bus Transportation Authority stated that it considers the actions and gestures of the drivers affected the honors of the public transport service organizations, and especially affect the dignity and moralities of other bus drivers. The statement said, the Phnom Penh City Bus Authorities will strengthen the disciplines of the aforementioned drivers by inviting him to come and get educated, and sign a contract saying he will not repeat such action again. According to the Phnom Penh City Bus Authority, the dispute between a bus driver and a motorcyclist occurred on Tuesday, 25 January, at the toll petrol stations near Borei Santipip 2 in Posanche district, which was caused by the bus driver blasting his horn to the motorcyclist, who was driving in the middle of the road. The motorcyclist became angry and said some insulting words to the bus driver that angered the bus driver in turn, who retaliated with more inappropriate gestures and words. The Phnom Penh City Bus Authorities also calls on all motorcyclists to respect the lanes of buses to avoid any possible accidents. Jambrong Retiset, EAC News.
The Minister of Commerce and the Commissioner of Cambodia for Dubai World Expo 2020, Pan Sosak, led a Cambodian delegation to hold a bilateral meeting with the Minister of International Trade of the United Arab Emirates, Thani bin Ahmed Al Zayudi, to promote investment opportunities between the two countries on Monday. This meeting was held on the occasion of the celebration of the National Day of Cambodia at the World Expo 2020 in Dubai. EAC News reporter Anthony Ellis has more.
Minister Thani bin Ahmed Al Zayudi commended the royal government of Cambodia for its support and participation in the 6th-month Dubai Expo 2020. He informed the Cambodian delegation about the economic, trade and tourism situation of the UAE and requested the Cambodian side to provide information on investment potential in Cambodia and to learn more about the joint ventures in the future. He stated that he wants a working group to study and examine the possibility of signing a free trade agreement between the two countries, as the UAE has done with India and some Asian countries in the past, in order to increase economic cooperation trade between the two countries. Minister Pan Sosak said the Cambodian has many favourable natural resources, thousands of agricultural products and many potential sectors that are developing, such as tourism, coastal areas, culture, ancient temples, especially Angkor Wat, transportation, airports, waterports, roads, buildings, and more that the UAE can come to invest in Cambodia. He stressed that the Cambodian also have a bilateral free trade agreement with China and the Republic of Korea, and has continued to study the negotiations for a free trade agreement with major partners such as Japan, India, Mongolia, Canada and United Kingdom, to diversify markets and promote exports in line with the Royal Government of Cambodia 4th phase of the Rectangular Strategic Policy. Minister Pan Sosak also agreed with the UAE to set up a working group to study the possibility of signing a free trade agreement. During the talks, the two countries also agreed to invite the delegations to pay an official visit to their respective countries to learn more about joint investment opportunities in various potential sectors and to promote free trade agreements between the two countries in the future. Anthony Ellis, EAC News.
The former Japanese ambassador to Cambodia, Takahashi Fumiyaki, has informed the Cambodian Minister of Agriculture, Veng Sakon, that a Japanese company wants to set up a working group to assist in the production and diversification of Cambodian silk production. EAC News reporter Sraipor Kong has more details.
Speaking to Minister Veng Sakon at the Ministry of Agriculture on Wednesday evening, former Ambassador Takahashi mentioned the establishment of the Cambodia Golden Seal Working Group in Cambodia to produce seal for the textile sector and especially for processing seal products to use as protein by the cosmetic industry, which is popular among the Japanese women and in the local market today. He further stated that this arrangement will benefit the work of people living in rural areas, help promote the value of khmer skill, establish a center for hatching good variety of worm that provide high yields, and request UNESCO to register Cambodian seal as a Khmer cultural heritage. Minister Hun Sen welcomed the Japanese investment in seal, saying that, at present, the production of khmer seal has decreased a lot, and the establishment of investment project on seal will help to preserve the khmer seal weaving culture for future generations. The minister wrote on his Facebook page that he fully supports this investment project because it will help rebuild the khmer seal production capacity to serve the local seal market, reduce import, make the handicraft weaving process work more sustainably, provide more jobs to local people and reduce migration, promote the cultural tradition of hand-weaving seal, and especially introduce foreigners to the value of khmer skill. The people of Cambodia have traditionally practiced handloom production of seal for centuries, such as in the provinces of Ta Kau, Ban Tie Mien Chai, Siem Reap, and Kampong Thom. But in recent years, the production of khmer seal has decreased. The Minister of Agriculture has acknowledged the decline and expressed support for cooperation to make the project of the Japanese company run smoothly and successfully. Sray Pokong, EAC News.
Timor-Leste Foreign Minister Adhanom Magno requested the Asean Chair, Prime Minister Hun Sen, to facilitate ASEAN mechanisms to include Timor-Leste as an ASEAN member, as well as to send technicians to study Cambodia. Minister Adhanom Magno told Prime Minister Hun Sen in a meeting on Friday morning that Timor-Leste thanks Cambodia for its continued support since Timor-Leste gained sovereignty. She also asked Cambodia to help move forward the country's application for ASEAN membership after years of waiting. Prime Minister Hun Sen's personal assistant, Ieng Sopalet, told reporters after the meeting that the foreign minister respectfully requested Prime Minister Hun Sen to allow technicians from Timor-Leste to come to Cambodia and study being a World Trade Organization member within the ASEAN community, and also respectfully requested his assistant as the ASEAN chair for Timor-Leste ASEAN membership. In response, Prime Minister Hun Sen stated that Cambodia has always supported Timor-Leste membership for ASEAN, and in the future will push for ASEAN economic and cultural development and strive to organize fact-finding missions in Timor-Leste as soon as possible to assess and prepare a roadmap and a clear timeline for the inclusion of Timor-Leste as a member of ASEAN. He also welcomed the sending of technicians from Timor-Leste to study becoming a member of the WTO and ASEAN. During the meeting, Prime Minister Hun Sen and Minister Adhanom Magno also discussed and promoted trade between the two countries, with the Timor-Leste side requesting the Prime Minister's recommendation to promote economic and trade cooperation between the two countries. In this regard, Prime Minister Hun Sen urged for the implementation of agreements and memoranda previously agreed between the two countries, as well as the establishment of new trade agreements such as free trade agreements, non-duplication tariffs, and investment agreements between the two countries. He also asked Timor-Leste to consider buying rice from Cambodia, as well as to welcome Timor-Leste investors to invest in Cambodia's agricultural sector. Article 64 of the ASEAN Charter of 2008 stipulates that in order for a state to become a member, it must be recognized by all ASEAN member states, have a binding agreement to the ASEAN Charter, and have the ability and willingness to perform the duties of membership. Since gaining independence from Indonesia in 2002, the Democratic Republic of Timor-Leste has repeatedly expressed its desire to join ASEAN. In 2011, the country filed an official application for ASEAN membership. However, this intention was not welcomed by most members. Timor-Leste is currently an ASEAN observer, while the ASEAN Working Group is examining the country's political, economic, and cultural situation before deciding whether to allow its membership. Deputy Commander-in-Chief of the Royal Cambodian Armed Forces and Commander-in-Chief of the Royal Cambodian Army, Lieutenant General Hun Manait, stated that due to sufficient human resources working as the main driving force of the nation, Cambodia has been able to stand strong, maintain stability, and complete peace. He said this has ensured the lives of the people and further progress that should not have a populist politician that humiliates the Cambodian human resources, which he considered an attack on the efforts of teachers, parents, and guardians, and an insult to the Cambodian nation. EAC News reporter Anthony Ellis has more.
Speaking at the inauguration ceremony of Hun Sen played Tongtung High School in Kampong Cham province on Thursday, Lieutenant General Hun Sen noted many developments in the field of education in Cambodia, including many achievements in the education sector, are due to the efforts of the royal government, authorities of all levels, philanthropists, and what especially determines the main success of the education sector is the character of students, parents, teachers. He added that any disgrace to Cambodia's human resources by populist politicians would not only attack individuals, it would also undermine the efforts of teachers, parents, guardians, and the nation as a whole. He said that Cambodia can be self-sufficient in all areas, as reflected in the country's high economic growth, especially before the COVID-19 outbreak, which was an achievement that should be attributed to the human resources produced by teachers. He added that the nation's human resources are both trained in Cambodia and abroad, have joined all national and subnational institutions as well as the private sector and other national and international organisations. He stressed that any disrespect to the Cambodian human resources by the populist politicians is an attack on the efforts of teachers and parents who have worked hard and also an insult to the Cambodian nation. Although Hun Sen did not state any specific names regarding which populist politician he may be speaking of, recently the most frequent attacker on Cambodia's education and human resources was Sam Rainsy. In October 2015, Sam Rainsy, the former president of Cambodian National Rescue Party, attacked the value of Cambodian diplomats and called them worthless. Immediately after, the Education Minister Hung Chon-Naron responded by saying the attack was meaningless and useless. He added that the disregard for education in Cambodia by Sam Rainsy was because his family had never studied in Cambodia and Sam Rainsy himself did not know how to write Khmer well. Recently, Sam Rainsy made comments about the degrees that Cambodian students can receive from the West Point Military Academy in the US, as an attack directed at Hun Sen, who graduated from the academy, saying that students can only receive their honorary degree or a second-class diploma at these foreign schools. This baseless allegation was eventually dismissed by the West Point Academy themselves, who said there is no differences in the degrees received by students from the US or abroad. All graduates receive the same level of degree accreditation. Anthony Ellis, EAC News.
The U.S. Ambassador to Cambodia, W. Patrick Murphy, has spoken in support of Cambodia's 2022 ASEAN chairmanship, saying that Cambodia's success in leading ASEAN this year is a success for the region as a whole. Speaking at the inauguration of AMCAM 2022 to celebrate the 45th anniversary of U.S.-ASEAN relations on Thursday evening at the U.S. Embassy in Phnom Penh, Patrick Murphy stated that there are many issues that Cambodia will need to address as chair of ASEAN in 2022, and expressed support for the progress that has been made so far in addressing these challenges. He said that if Cambodia succeeds as chair of ASEAN, we will all be equally successful, because this success is tantamount to progress on recovering from the global pandemic, ensuring maritime security, climate change, the crisis in Myanmar, and more. Also speaking at the ceremony, the Minister for ASEAN Affairs in the Cabinet of the Prime Minister of Cambodia, Kao Kim Hoon, thanked the United States for valuing the ASEAN community and Cambodia's role as chair, and said Cambodia regards the United States as an important partner and strategic partner of ASEAN. Minister Kao Kim Hoon said that as the chair of ASEAN in 2022, Cambodia would like to express its full commitment to work closely with all ASEAN member states, the ASEAN Secretariat, and of course with all ASEAN dialogue partners, including the United States. Addressing the meeting with ASEAN Secretary General Dato Lim Jock Hoi on 17 January 2022, Prime Minister Hun Sen said that the work that ASEAN needs to do this year includes the revitalization of the ASEAN economy, preparing for the 20th anniversary of the Declaration on the Conduct of Parties in the South China Sea, the ASEAN Pacific Initiative, working on Timor-Leste membership, and organizing a summit to push for economic recovery from the COVID-19 crisis. He further stressed that ASEAN cannot spend time thinking only about Myanmar. The Minister of Economy and Finance, Deputy Prime Minister Onpon Monirot, has said as Cambodia reopens the country, the government needs to focus on logistics and transportation to reduce the cost of selling products to international markets. He urged the Ministry of Public Works and Transportation to address the challenges and accelerate some work in 2022, including asking the ministry to focus on the quality of infrastructure. EAC News reporter Sraipor Kong has more.
Speaking at the closing ceremony of the meeting to review the work of public work and transportation in 2021 and to set the direction of work in 2022 at the Ministry of Public Work and Transport on Friday afternoon, Deputy Prime Minister Onpon Monirot instructed the Minister of Public Work and Transport to finalize the master plan on transportation, the mean and logistic to facilitate cross-border transportation, the facilitation of trade and cross-border trade, and the improvement of infrastructure at international border crossings, as well as to build and improve some major national roads by accepting only those projects that fit the standard and are in accordance with the required technical specifications. The Economy and Finance Minister also promoted the construction of sewerage infrastructure, the development of railways and waterways, and also promoted the training and development of human resources in the technical field of public work and transportation, thus helping to improve the quality of service to the people. The Minister of Public Works and Transport Senior Minister Sun Chantol also spoke at the closing ceremony and said that in 2022 the ministry has agreed to set a year for the improvement of transport infrastructure, climate change resilience, construction management, and the quality maintenance of both roads and bridges, focusing on the use of modern technology. He pledged to make more effort to implement the set direction of the work by ensuring that it will be conducted accurately, meticulously, and with high-quality standard to avoid repetitive work. In 2021, Cambodia completed several infrastructure projects, such as the construction of the Cambodia-China Stang Trong Pro Chma Friendship Bridge, the project to improve the road network on the National Road 2, National Road 3, National Road 5, and the National Road and 7 Bridge project in Prey Vang Province. Additionally, the construction of 38 road infrastructure in Siem Reap and Sihanoukville have so far reached 90% completion, and the ministry is also conducting studies for more new projects in 2022. Sraipor Kong, EAC News.
The U.S. Ambassador to Cambodia, W. Patrick Murphy, has spoken in support of Cambodia's 2022 ASEAN chairmanship, saying that Cambodia's success in leading ASEAN this year is a success for the region as a whole. Speaking at the inauguration of AMCAM 2022 to celebrate the 45th anniversary of U.S.-ASEAN relations on Thursday evening at the U.S. Embassy in Phnom Penh, Patrick Murphy stated that there are many issues that Cambodia will need to address as chair of ASEAN in 2022, and expressed support for the progress that has been made so far in addressing these challenges. He said that if Cambodia succeeds as chair of ASEAN, we will all be equally successful, because this success is tantamount to progress on recovering from the global pandemic, ensuring maritime security, climate change, the crisis in Myanmar, and more. Also speaking at the ceremony, the Minister for ASEAN Affairs in the Cabinet of the Prime Minister of Cambodia, Kao Kim Hoon, thanked the United States for valuing the ASEAN community and Cambodia's role as chair, and said Cambodia regards the United States as an important partner and strategic partner of ASEAN. Minister Kao Kim Hoon said that as the chair of ASEAN in 2022, Cambodia would like to express its full commitment to work closely with all ASEAN member states, the ASEAN Secretariat, and of course with all ASEAN dialogue partners, including the United States. Addressing the meeting with ASEAN Secretary General Dato Lim Jock Hoi on 17 January 2022, Prime Minister Hun Sen said that the work that ASEAN needs to do this year includes the revitalization of the ASEAN economy, preparing for the 20th anniversary of the Declaration on the Conduct of Parties in the South China Sea, the ASEAN Pacific Initiative, working on Timor-Leste membership, and organizing a summit to push for economic recovery from the COVID-19 crisis. He further stressed that ASEAN cannot spend time thinking only about Myanmar. The Ministry of Tourism and the National Commission for the Evaluation of Clean Cities have issued an announcement on the procedures and criteria for the Capital Provincial Administrative Competition under the Cambodia Safe and Green Tourism Destinations campaign. EAC News reporter Sraipor Kong has more.
The competition aims to encourage the effort of Capital Provincial Administration to implement tourism safety rules and implement minimum standard operating procedure (SOPs) for living in a new normal, especially to remind all tourism businesses to participate in prevention and protection against COVID-19 so they can maintain confidence and provide warmth to tourists traveling throughout Cambodia. The ministry also confirmed that the Capital Provincial Administration must participate in the Capital Provincial Administration competition, which will start from 27 January 2022 to 30 December 2022, and the National Committee for Clean City Evaluation. The Ministry of Tourism will announce the winner on the occasion of the National Clean City Day 2023. The Capital and Provincial Administration will provide ratings on 3 levels: excellent, good, and moderate level. Cambodia announced the launch of the Cambodia Safe and Green Tourism Destinations campaign on 27 January to ensure the success of the reopening of the international tourism ahead of the upcoming event and celebration in Cambodia such as the Southeast Asian Games. Sraipor Kong, EAC News.
All aboard! High-speed train ready for the Olympics. China has unveiled a brand new state-of-the-art Fuxing bullet train, said to be the world's first intelligent and autonomous high-speed train with a top speed of 350 kilometers per hour and a 5G live broadcast studio on board, to serve the upcoming Beijing Winter Olympics.
The high-speed train trip from Beijing's Xinghe Station and Tajichang Railway Station in Jiangxi-go kicked off on Tuesday the 25th as start of the Winter Olympic draws near. The train ferries passengers between the Chinese capital and the mountain city of Jiangxi-go, which is set to host freestyle skiing and snowboarding, the biathlon ski jumping as well as cross-country skiing during the Games. Once passengers pass through the security check and use the ticketless QR scanner, the train reaches speeds up to 350 kilometers per hour, significantly reducing the time speed to around 50 minutes compared to the usual commute of 3 hours. The Winter Olympics are set to kick off on Friday, February the 4th, and will run within a closed-loop system until it ends February the 20th.
Chinese Foreign Ministry spokeswoman Zhao Lijian said during a press conference in Beijing held on Tuesday that China warmly welcomes the King of Cambodia to visit the opening ceremony of the Beijing Winter Olympics. Zhao Lijian was quoted by the Chinese embassy in Cambodia saying, "Cambodia is a good neighbor to China and has firmly supported the Chinese side in hosting the Beijing Winter Olympics. His Majesty King Norodom Sihamoni is an old friend of the Chinese people. We welcome His Majesty to China to witness the historic occasion of Beijing becoming the first city to ever host both the summer and winter editions of the Olympic Games." The Beijing Winter Olympics will begin on 4th February 2022, after the Chinese New Year. The 16-day international sports event will end on 20th February 2022, with nearly 3,000 athletes from 90 countries taking part. Britain's Prince Andrew on Wednesday, January 26th, has asked for a U.S. jury trial as he has again denied Virginia Giuffre's accusations that he sexually abused her more than 2 decades ago when she was only 17.
Virginia Giuffre, 38, has sued the Duke of York last August, alleging he battered her while the late financier and convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein was trafficking her. In a filing with the U.S. District Court in Manhattan, Andrew, 61, has admitted to meeting Epstein in or around 1999, but denied Giuffre's claim that he committed sexual assault and battery upon her. David Voice, a lawyer of Giuffre, has said in a statement that Andrew was trying to blame the victim. "We look forward to confronting Prince Andrew with his denials and attempts to blame Ms. Giuffre for her own abuse," Voice has said. Andrew's ties to Epstein, who killed himself in a Manhattan jail cell in 2019 while awaiting a trial on sex abuse charges, have undermined his reputation with the public and his standing in Britain's royal family. Earlier this month, the family has removed Andrew's military links and military patronages and has said the second son of Queen Elizabeth would no longer be known as His Royal Highness. Andrew's filing was an answer a common document in U.S. legislation in which defendants deny or say they lack enough information to comment on plaintiffs' substantive accusations. The prince's lawyers had previously called Geoffrey's lawsuit baseless and accused her of seeking another payday. Geoffrey has received $500,000 in a 2009 civil settlement with Epstein. U.S. District Judge Louis Kaplan has said a trial could begin between September and December 2022.
Carbonado black diamonds, known as the Enigma, are quite rare to begin with. Their origin and formation are shrouded in mystery because there are not that many of them found on Earth.
The mysterious black diamond is also known as Carbonado diamond, or more famous as the Enigma. There are only two places in the world that Carbonado of this structure have been found: Brazil and Central African Republic. The curator of mineral sciences at the Natural History Museum of Los Angeles, geologist Dr. Aaron Celestian, has said on Wednesday, January 26, that the Carbonado diamond is shrouded in mystery as the origin of formation because there's not that many of them found on Earth. It is a very rare one.
We think that most carbonados are about 2.6 to 3.2 billion years old. That dates back, the Earth is only 4.65 billion years old, so this is dating back close to major Earth events that are taking place back then, like plate tectonics and oxygenation of the Earth's atmosphere.
It has not been exhibited before, and the price from $4 and $7 million. However, for someone like Dr. Celestian, the gem is priceless. I would love to get my hand on this diamond, he has admitted. Scientists have been theorizing about the origin of the Carbonado diamonds. However, because not enough is known about processing deep within the Earth, as well as nebula formation in space, they are at a loggerhead. Celestian has said, "We think that they could have formed super deep within the Earth's interior, far deeper than what we know of already diamonds. There's hypotheses that suggest that they form at impact size, where a large asteroid hit Earth, causing a carbon on the surface of the Earth to grow into these carbonados. And there's also interstellar hypothesis that suggests that they grew in space and then later fell on the surface of Earth. So we don't know actually where they came from." He has said research into the diamond would tell us a lot about what deep Earth's interior mineralogy is like. What is the Earth made of? And we just don't know the answer to this question because we can't sample down the deep. With diamond like this is a rare opportunity for us to see what exactly some of those materials are from the deep Earth's interior. Celestian has also added, or if it did come from space, what it would tell us is the evolution of our solar system, information about the evolution of planets in our solar system, and that's also quite exciting. So no matter what, I think really exciting research could come from this type of stones.
And now for a look at news-making international headlines this Friday, 28th January.
A new oil leak has occurred at a refinery near Peru's capital Lima on Tuesday during cleanup of the January 15 major spill, according to the Environmental Assessment and Control Agency under the Environment Ministry. There's been a fresh oil leak at a refinery off the coast of Peru. Authorities say it happened during the work on an underwater pipeline at the La Pampilla refinery, owned by Spanish energy giant Repsol. It comes as the country grapples with a massive oil spill earlier this month, triggered by the volcanic eruption in the South Pacific Ocean. Residents in the capital Lima are now taking part in a unique campaign to tackle the mess. The operation was a necessary part of the investigation into the cause of the first spill. About 8 barrels of remaining crude oil in the pipeline spilled out, which has already been cleaned up. Repsol has denied there had been a second leak. Oil collection along the coastline is still underway. Local authorities have asked Repsol to complete the work within 7 days. The first oil spill occurred on January 15 when an oil tanker was unloading at one of the terminals of the refinery. The crude oil spill was estimated to be at about 6,000 barrels, affecting about 1.8 square kilometers of coastline and 7.1 square kilometers of sea, according to the Environmental Assessment and Control Agency. Calling it one of the most important ecological disasters on the coast in recent years, the Peruvian government has declared a 90-day environmental emergency in the coastal area of Lima last Saturday. In response to Peru's request for international aid, a team of UN experts on environmental disasters arrived in Peru on Monday to assist the cleanup of the oil spill.
2 gunmen killed an Argentine man who managed a popular club in Playa del Carmen at Mexico Riviera Maya tourist resort, local authorities reported on Wednesday. Federico Mazzoni, the manager of Mamitas Beach Club, popular with foreign tourists, was shot twice in the head on Tuesday afternoon, confirmed Oscar Montes de Oca, state prosecutor in Quintana Roo, where the resort is located. The prosecutor's office of Quintana Roo state began the inquiry into the matter and security forces were dispatched to the area. Montes de Oca had indicated that the most solid line of investigation is that the crime had to do with the sale of drugs. The attackers fled on a jet ski, according to images captured by security cameras. The crime occurred when the club had a few customers and was about to close, according to the prosecutor. This Mexican beach designation has been recently marred by violent crimes targeting foreign citizens. Just last week at a hotel near Cancun, Mexican state prosecutors that 2 Canadians with criminal records have been killed in what authorities consider a debt dispute linked to the international crime activities on Tuesday, 25th of January.
Thousands of farm fish have died from cold in a lagoon in northwestern Greece after a heavy snowstorm has crippled the country this week. The dead fish, all sea bream and white sea bream in the Richo lagoon of the Diprano lake in Igoumenitsa, have appeared early on Tuesday after temperature in the lagoon has dropped as low as 0 degrees Celsius. They died from thermal shock, said a local geologist Konstantinos Padikaris from the Department of Fishery who visited the lagoon on Tuesday. The sea bream species are sensitive to low temperature and cannot survive below 4 degrees Celsius, said Padikaris. Usual temperature in the lagoon at this time of year are about 7 to 8 degrees Celsius, he said. The fish were at a shallow depth, where the cold was quicker to penetrate the water. At shallow depth, the reaction of the air is more intense, Padikaris has added. A footage showed thousands of dead fish floating on the surface in the water and on the shore of the lagoon. The fish belong to a local state-owned fish farm, and due to their containment in enclosure in the lagoon, they could not swim out to the deeper depth of the lake or sea to survive. Every year, we free them into the lake, but this year, unfortunately, we did not have the chance to free them in time because the frost came quickly, said fish farm cultivator Ioannis Uzunoglu, who worked at the farm as he gathered the pile of dead fish from the lagoon onto a rowboat. The fish farm contained more than 600,000 fish of various species. Some 50 tons of fish were destroyed. Other species were not harmed.
EAC News fully supports the Royal Government of Cambodia's preventative and administrative measures against COVID-19. But we need you to play your part in helping bring the 20 February community transmission event to an end. Wash your hands regularly, sanitize wherever possible. Keep an eye on your body temperature. Use the Stop COVID QR code and maintain a safe social distance. But above all, please, please, please wear a mask. Only together can we beat COVID-19. If it's happening and you need to know about it, you'll get it all right here. EAC News brings you updates and breaking news in English across all of our platforms and channels. The EAC News app, YouTube, Facebook, Telegram, Twitter, and our website www.eacnews.asia. Join me, Andrew Barnes-Roberts, and the rest of the EAC News team every day on your favorite channels. EAC News, Cambodia made clear.
Beijing Olympics organizers confirmed on Sunday 72 cases of COVID-19 among early arriving games-related personnel from 4th to 22nd January. However, no cases have been reported among the 171 athletes and team officials who also arrived in that period.
Final preparations are taking place for the Winter Games amid a global surge in cases of the highly infectious Omicron coronavirus variant. Of the 72 confirmed cases, 39 were found in testing at the airport and 33 inside the loop, organizers have said. The games are set to take place from 4 to 20 February inside a closed-loop bubble that separates all event personnel from the public. Designated gate positions, areas, pathways, and lines have been set up at Beijing Capital International Airport, the entry point for overseas Olympic participants, to form a complete closed loop. These designated areas are completely separated from other areas, and games-related personnel will not have any intersection with ordinary passengers. All personnel in the closed loop are required to use games dedicated vehicle between designated places without any contact with people outside the loop and local citizens. Beijing 2022 organizers have stressed that there is no widespread infection inside the closed loop and the epidemic is under control. Participants in the bubble area subject to daily testing, with 336,421 PCR tests administered from January 4 to January 22. The chair of the Beijing 2022 Medical Expert Panel, Brian Max Klosky, have said that the numbers were consistent with those at last summer Tokyo Game and in line with expectations. All game participants need 2 negative PCR test results within 96 hours after departure to China, and most are traveling on specially arranged charter flights. Those who have a confirmed positive test will not be allowed to compete or continue their role. If symptomatic, they will ask to stay at the designated hospital for treatment. If asymptomatic, they will be asked to stay in an isolated facility. There will be accessible rooms and experienced on-site personnel to assist with daily care tasks for those who require it. Those who are asymptomatic will return to their games time role after being discharged from isolation, and confirmed cases will resume their games time role after recovery and will be asked to adopt additional countermeasures. Last week, organizers have said that the ticket for the Olympic would not be sold to the general public due to COVID-19 and would instead be distributed to a group of people who would be required to undertake strict prevention measures before, during, and after attending events. China has managed to contain domestic outbreak of COVID-19 since it first emerged in the central city of Wuhan and has all but shut its border to international arrivals. On Sunday, Beijing city government has introduced further measures to contain COVID-19 after finding 9 local transmitted cases the previous day.
A rehearsal of the Beijing 2022 Winter Olympics opening ceremony took place at the National Stadium as fireworks lit up the sky on Saturday night, 22nd January, during which a warm-up activity performed by Chinese square dancers in about 30 minutes was particularly eye-catching.
The opening ceremony of Beijing 2022 will start at 8 p.m. on February 4. Before that, a warm-up performance will be presented by square dancers aging from 5 to over 70 years old, expressing their excitement for the Olympic Winter Games. Chinese performers will display the spirit and style of elderly people in China to the world. Though they are getting old, they are in good spirits. The square dancers consist of children, pupils, middle school and college students, the middle-aged and also the elderly, most of whom come from Beijing and North China's Hebei province. Ordinary people of various age groups can show themselves on this international stage, celebrating the Olympics as well as Chinese New Year. The opening ceremony, scheduled on February 4, coincides with Li Chun, the first of 24 solar terms in the traditional Chinese lunar calendar, indicating the start of spring. The costume is designed with the theme of Li Chun, as February 4 happens to be the day of Li Chun. Chinese hope to tell their story of spring to the world through their vibrant performance. The plans for the Olympics and Paralympics opening and closing ceremonies were confirmed in March 2021, and the rehearsals now is in the final stretch after months of preparation. As 90% of the performers at the opening ceremony are students, practices and rehearsals are all carried out at weekends. In line with Beijing's efforts to stage a safe, streamlined, and splendid games, there will not be large-scale performances that stretch for a long time. The number of performers is cut from about 15,000 in 2008 to 3,000, with the length shortened to about 100 minutes due to cold weather and the COVID-19 pandemic.
The Free Ride World Tour 2022 has kicked off on Saturday, January 22nd, with its first ever stop in Spain, with Swedish Max Palm landing the competition's first double backflip to win the men's ski competition.
US riders took top spot in both men's and women's snowboarding in Bekele Barret. Swedish rider Max Palm stole the show with his high-flying acrobatics, which catapulted the 19-year-old Swede to the top of the men's ski competition. Local rookie Aber Monga came in second, followed by Craig Murray of New Zealand in third. In an amazing comeback, Canadian Olivia McNeil dominated the women's ski competition after suffering an injury in 2021. She beat out Norway's Hedvig Wessel and Susanna Wettig, who rounded up the top three. Michael Morn of the US won the men's snowboarding competition, followed by Camille Armand of France and Britt Cody Bramwell in third. Women's snowboarding veteran Urka Viganda of the United States took the top spot with a smooth transitions of quality air. She was followed by Nura Castan Baron in second and Tiffany Perrotin in France in third.
At least 8 people died and 38 were injured in a stampede when fans stormed a stadium hosting an Africa Cup of Nations soccer match in Cameroon's capital on Monday, 24th January.
A panicked crowd trying to squeeze through a narrow entrance gate at the newly built Olembe Stadium in Yaoundé that was hosting a round of 16 game between Cameroon and Comoros. The stampede came as a heavy blow for the tournament, which has grown in excitement on the pitch in recent days, thanks to some match upset, but which was under scrutiny for a lack of readiness beforehand. COVID-19 and insecurity caused by separatist insurgency also complicated preparations. Works on the 60,000-seat Olembe Stadium has continued right up to the start of Africa's top soccer tournaments, prompting the Confederations of African Football (CAF), the continent soccer's governing body, to hold an emergency meeting to discuss cancelling and competition altogether. The Confederations of African Football (CAF) has said in a statement that it was investigating the tragic incident that took place at Olembe Stadium during the Total Energies Africa Cup of Nations fixtures between host Cameroon and Comoros on Monday, 24th January. CAF is currently investigating the situations and trying to get more detail on what transpired. We are in constant communication with Cameroon government and the local organizing committee, the statement also said. Following a low turnout in the first round games at brand new stadium built for the continent's premier men's soccer tournaments, Cameroon authorities have thrown open stadium gates, organized mass transport and giving out free tickets to lure fans.
Italy's Juventus Football Club have agreed to sign ACF Fiorentina striker Dusan Vlahovic in a deal worth €75 million or $84.56 million, Sky Italia has revealed on Tuesday, January 25th.
The deal would be the most expensive of the January transfer window so far, with Serie A joint top scorer, Serbian striker for Serie A club Fiorentina and the Serbian national team, Dusan Vlahovic, set to earn a reported almost €7 million per year in Turin. Fiorentina sporting director Daniele Pradi has said on Italian television on Monday night that the club door was open for offer but set a price tag for €75 million. The Serbian, who joined the Florent club in July 2018, was named best young player in Serie A last season after scoring 21 league goals. He has continued that form hit another 17 this season under new coach Vincenzo Italino, a record matched only by Lazio Ciro Immobile. Vlahovic's departures seem inevitable after Fiorentina owner Rocco Commisso has announced in October last year that the strikers had turned down offers of an extension to his deal, which was set to expire in June 2023. Juventus are fifth in Serie A, 6 points ahead of 7th place Fiorentina with a game in hand.
With the opening ceremony of the Beijing Winter Olympics just 7 days away, ice-making technicians and volunteer coordinators at Zhangjiakou Competition Zone in North China's Hebei province are busy wrapping up their preparation work.
On Wednesday, a group of technicians began the final ice-making process on the 2 ski jumping tracks of the National Ski Jumping Center. The venue is nicknamed Snow Royi, as the structure resembles a traditional Chinese ornament of that name, symbolizing good fortune. During the ski jumping competition, athletes will go down the takeoff ramp and launch themselves up high. The thickness of ice crust covering the tracks are crucial to the safety and performance of skiers during the events, with less than 5 millimeters of error allowed. The technicians have said they expect to complete the ice-making process in 4 days. Meanwhile, volunteer coordinator at Zhangjiakou's Guyangshu cluster, consisting of the National Ski Jumping Center, the National Cross Country Skiing Center, and the National Biathlon Center, have welcomed the arrival of the last batches of volunteers on Tuesday. The volunteers, including university students, will provide a wide range of services during the Winter Olympic Games from February 4 to 20 and Paralympic Games from March 4 to 13. Zhangjiakou has recruited some 7,000 volunteers for the upcoming games from around 190,000 applications. More than 4,000 will be working at the venues and some 2,000 will be dispatched to various locations across the city. As a popular ski destination, Zhangjiakou is about 180 kilometers northwest of Beijing, connected by highway and a high-speed rail line. It will stage the majority of the ski and snowboard events, including freestyle, cross-country, ski jumping, Nordic combined, and biathlon.
Swedish biathlete Sebastian Samuelsson showed nerves of steel at the Pyeongchang Olympics to win gold in relay and silver in the men's pursuit, and is hoping to rediscover his best shooting form in time for the Beijing Games after a tough couple of seasons.
The outspoken 24-year-old went through something of a slump after his 2018 triumphs, but bounced back to take 2 silver and 2 bronze medals at the 2021 World Championships, rekindling his Olympic dreams. I took 2 medals in the last Olympics, and after that, I think I struggled a little bit in the first 2 years with my performances, Sebastian Samuelsson has recalled. It was good, but it was not the great results that I hoped for. I have struggled with that, and I think it also comes with a lot of pressure on myself, he has said matter of fact. I feel now, 4 years later, maybe I've grown into this costume a little bit better, and this season so far has worked very good for me, so I'm hoping to fight for the medals again, he hopefully said. Nowhere is the pressure more apparent in biathlon than when shooting, as athletes try to slow their pulse and breathing so they can hit the tiny targets 50 meters away. The biathlete says, for us, it's very important to change between skiing and shooting because skiing is so much adrenaline and you have to push a lot and you stress yourself. faster, faster, the whole time. But when you get into the shooting range, suddenly you need to be calm and do things methodically. Samuelson and his teammates swish across the packed snow, gliding in and lying in a prone position before rattling off their 5 shots and skiing off again for another lap. On the practice range with the rest of the team, there are no signs of any nerves or pressure from the smiling Samuelson as the team make their final preparations.
The Smithsonian National Zoo's prehensile-tailed porcupine couple, Beatrix and Quilber, have a big announcement to make that may warm your heart. The porcupine couple have welcomed their second little porcupette, as baby porcupines are known, into the world on the night of January 3rd. The Washington, D.C.'s National Zoo has made the announcement official in a tweet on Wednesday, and their new kid is looking sharp. Small mammal housekeepers came in for duty on January 4th and discovered Beatrix had given birth overnight, the Smithsonian's National Zoo media website has reported. The porcupette, or baby porcupine, is seen with mom Beatrix in all of the visuals released by the zoo. Dad Quilber is in a different habitat for now to allow mom and porcupette to bond. The now nearly 3-week-old porcupette looks cozy with mom and is nursing well and gaining weight. The zoo team is looking forward to learning if the newborn will take after Beatrix, who is relaxed and easygoing, or be more active and curious like Dad Quilber. These sharp little beauties look anatomically similar until they reach 6 months of age. Smithsonian zookeepers sent quill samples to scientists at the zoo's Center for Conservation Genomics for DNA analysis and hope to reveal their porcupette's sex and its name in a few weeks. The porcupette's elder sibling was born in November of 2019 after Beatrix and Quilber bred for the first time. Quilber was transferred to the National Zoo from upstate New York specifically for this purpose about a year before their first porcupette was born. Like its older sibling, the new and so far yet to be named porcupette is the 4th generation of Beatrix's family living in the zoo, according to a press release shared by the birth of Beatrix's first baby. Prehensile-tailed porcupines are native to South America and one of 18 species of porcupines native to North, South, and Central America. When a porcupette is born, its protective quills are soft and hair-like, but they harden minutes after birth. By 3 days old, a newborn's quills can be prickly enough to hurt. Once this newborn is old enough, he or she will be in the zoo's small mammal house, climbing in man-made tree canopies and munching on leaves, flowers, shoots, and other vegetation with their porcupine family. And finally, although in Cambodia there is a traditional Khmer New Year, another traditional New Year celebration that is popular with most people in the country is the Lunar New Year. The festival is celebrated by many Cambodians of Chinese descent at home as well as in Chinese temples, although it is not a national holiday. As the festival draws close, many have put up bright red lanterns on their doors, windows, and other places in their homes, and yellow fortune flowers like gold adorn the houses as well. They believe that offering New Year angels on the occasion of the Lunar New Year will bring them happiness and wealth and will shield them from any misfortunes. The 2022 Lunar New Year starts on 31st January and will last until 2nd February. In Phnom Penh, you can find colorful flowers, especially yellow fortune flowers, as well as some home decorations, such as yellow and red paper lanterns in the markets, as well as on the streets. Food being widely sold in vendor stalls include roast pig, roast chicken, and Chinese spices. Vendors at each stall are busy selling these items to customers with almost no time to rest. According to Chinese mythology, one day an animal named Nian, meaning year in Chinese, came to slaughter livestock, villagers, and especially children. To protect themselves, the villagers put food in front of their houses every year. It is believed that after Nian eats the offered food, it will no longer harm the people. The villagers once saw Nian scared of children dressed in red, which made them realize that he was afraid of the color red. Therefore, when the new year comes, the villagers wear red and put up red lanterns and red paper decorations on their doors and windows. The villagers also use fireworks to drive Nian away. After that, Nian never came back to the village again. A trader in Orasai Market is busy selling items for the Lunar New Year. past 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and there are still a lot of guests coming to buy various items at her stall. The stall owner said that customers started coming to buy Chinese New Year gifts at the beginning of the month and had more customers than last year. She said that people come to buy lanterns and red paper to display at home because they understand that red is a color that chases evil and makes evil spirits not dare to harass their families. In addition, there is gold and silver paper to burn as offerings to ancestors who have passed away, as well as fireworks. The seller says she understands that such rituals really help families prosper and have good fortune throughout the year.
We hang lantern on the walls of the house to raise our feng shui zodiac sign, and fireworks will be lit regularly. In China, they like to light fireworks. They hang them in front of their houses. They can burn them and make a lot of noise. We offer food and water to our ancestors. We decorate the house to get good fortune throughout the year, to wish us all to be healthy in our house, and to allow money to flow in at once.
One of the customers who came to buy various materials and decorations, Kain Kim Ling, thinks that making offerings as well as decorating one's house according to the Chinese tradition brings good fortune to that person, as he observes this ceremony being held every year.
We do it based on the belief of most Chinese people with red and gold color bring good fortune to their property every year. In my personal opinion, I think it is normal if they celebrate this every year. It means it really brings good fortune and good luck to their house. That's why they do it every year.
The materials he buys includes red lanterns, paper, small gold bars, and fortune flowers. Heng Li, a roast pig seller at Orasai Market, said that this year there were more buyers than last year, after the government reopened the country. Customers order about 10 to 20 pigs a day, and the price of roasted pigs and chickens are higher than usual but at an acceptable level.
This year, the sales are a bit better than last year. We're not nervous about COVID-19 because we have maintained strict protections. We have sold out since the beginning of January quite frequently. But we do not know if sales can be more than last year because there are not many orders. Generally, pigs weighing 10 kilos or more, we usually weigh the price on a normal day from $17.15 to $18.4. But on the day of the offering, the price goes up accordingly because the goods we bring in are also more expensive. Prices are expensive but acceptable.
A florist in Bang Prolit, Simsaret, said that most customers come to buy only fortune flowers, marigold flowers, and oranges to display, because they understand that all these plants in the house will bring prosperity, good fortune, and good luck to them.
This is the Chinese New Year. So since it is the Chinese traditions, we sell out a lot of this day. But we usually are not busy until the Chinese New Year. It becomes very busy during the Chinese New Year. Most people come to buy lucky plants, orange trees, yellow fortune flowers. They represent luck in business and wealth. And the orange trees bring good fortune to their homes. All of these plants are expensive, but if they spend money to buy it, it will bring them good fortune. This year, they would earn good fortune, and next year they will also earn it.
At the shrines in Phnom Penh, especially at Wat Phnom, people who believe in the Chinese tradition will gather to pray for peace and safeguard against curses and bad luck, according to Chinese rituals. People climb up and down the stone stairs at Wat Phnom to make their prayers. Smoke of incense filled the shrine. Raksam Nang, an elder who lives in Niekta Preo Chao Temple, said that this year more people came to visit the temple than last year since the COVID-19 situation has improved. Most people coming to make their prayers are of Chinese descent, who believe in the power of their ancestors and ask for peace in the family, take various vows, and hope to cure their bad luck.
This years, at the end of the years, our people who he turned away from at the beginning of the years came to say goodbye to his grandfather, who came to thank him for helping him to have a healthy business that years. In particular, some of the people who came to cure their bad lucks because this year some Chinese zodiac signs such as the tiger, monkey, snakes, and pigs are said to have bad luck. So people who are born with these zodiac signs come to pray and cure themselves of bad lucks and ask for prosperity.
The Lunar New Year is 3 days long, and these days are considered the most special days where people should not do anything dirty or bad that could impact the happiness of the new year. People have to be in a good mood and bring glory to themselves and their families. Some even forbid themselves to cry, dress up but do not wash their hair, do not enter other people's rooms, and do not break dishes or glasses during the 3 days of the new year. One of the citizens who came to pray at Niekta Prea Chau, Thaing Vong Ratanak, said that he came to the temple to cure the bad luck for his son. He expressed his strong belief in the preparation of ceremonies during the Lunar New Year. He said good execution of the traditions and ceremonies will allow families to avoid danger and receive good luck indeed.
Well, this is a Chinese tradition. It depends on the belief. Some people believe it, some not. It depends on the individual. But for those who follow Buddhism in China, I believe we are here to cure our bad luck and bring good fortunes.
Thank you for watching the weekly roundup on EAC News Channel. For more breaking news and updates, you can check out our website, eacnews.asia, or search EAC News on Telegram or at your favorite app store. More from the EAC News team in the daily roundup on Monday night at 8 p.m. We will see you then.